Good morning, everyone. My name is Sabrina Kofer, and on behalf of Choice and ACRL, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Harnessing the Power of Documentaries to Expand Libraries' Reach and Impact and Drive Progress, which is sponsored by ProQuest, part of Clarivate, and Film Platform. This session is one in a series of sponsored webinars from Choice and ACRL that addresses new ideas and developments of interest to the academic library community. Now I'll just put some links in the chat for where you can register for upcoming Choice ACRL webinars or watch previous recordings. Before we get started, I'd like to point out just a few features of the webinar software. All the attendees who join the presentation are automatically muted and your cameras are off, so don't worry about generating any noise or feedback. We've got that taken care of for you. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. To adjust the size of the slides or videos, you can use the divider in the middle of the screen to slide the sizes to your liking. We are using the Q&A feature today. Please use it to ask questions of our speakers and to submit any comments. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation, so please do type your questions into the Q&A module as they occur to you. You can also use the upvote feature to highlight questions you like or would like to be addressed. Also, there is closed captioning available for today's session. To toggle the automated captions on or off, please use the CC button on the bottom right corner of your screen. Last, please note that we are recording today's program. The recording will be shared and repurposed online after the live session, and submitted questions and comments will be included in the recording. So by submitting your questions, you are providing permission for these to be used for these purposes. Everyone who registered should receive a follow-up email with a link to the archive version. And with that, we are ready to get started. So I will hand it over to our moderator for today, Sarah.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're so happy you've been able to join us. My name is Sarah Archambault, and I am the program director of the documentary film in the Public Interest Initiative at Harvard Kennedy School's Shorenstein Center. At the Shorenstein Center, our work revolves around the goal of fostering a documentary film culture that serves democracy deliberately. I'm also a documentary film producer and director. So between these two hats, I'm constantly thinking about how to connect audiences with information that is meaningful to their lives. And that is the kind of storytelling that only great movies can deliver, that kind of emotional storytelling. With resources like Film Platform, we now have an opportunity to bridge the gap between meaningful, thoughtfully constructed journalistic documentaries and our educational institutions. This space connects our academic community to essential cinematic narratives, going beyond the usual celebrity and true crime documentaries that often saturate the market. I like to call them the 3 C's: cults, crimes, and celebrities. A little too many of those, though they're fun. Today, we're going to be delving into the role, the very vital role of documentaries in educational settings, particularly through the lens of Film Platform and the documentaries that they provide in academic video online, which is available in academic libraries. This platform, co-founded by one of our esteemed panelists, Annie Roney, showcases how the art of documentary can serve as a powerful tool in classrooms, expanding horizons and enriching curriculums. We've already received a lot of great questions, which we're going to do our best to address. For those of you who are asking questions, as Sabrina had pointed out, just put your questions in the Q&A box below, and you're also going to have that opportunity to upvote on the questions you're excited about. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we can, but we really encourage you to participate. And just another reminder that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared and repurposed after the live session. So please keep that in mind as you're submitting your questions and your comments. And also, if you just feel like saying hello in the Q&A box and letting us know where you're from, that'd be great too. Oh, somebody from India. I think we're having people. I saw someone else from Greece, people from all over the world. It's so exciting. Cool. Well, now I'd like to introduce our panelists. First, we're going to start with Annie Roney. So Annie is the founder and CEO of Rocco Films and is the co-founder of Film Platform. For those of you who aren't familiar, Rocco Films is a leading documentary distribution company, one of the most highly regarded in the industry. Film Platform is a global streaming service which has been developed to bring the most relevant and critically acclaimed films to colleges and universities, allowing students and faculty to access and actively use films in both the classroom and just for research. With her expertise in both the documentary film ecosystem and the educational world, Annie is very well known for making documentary films milestones in visual learning. She's curated and worked on a powerful collection of award-winning films aimed for use in academic settings. Among them are films that many of you probably know, like RBG, Dolores, Resilience, Kiss the Ground, How to Survive a Plague, and so many more. So welcome to Annie. Our next panelist is Lorraine Wakana. Lorraine is a subject librarian at Ohio University Libraries. She covers dance, film, theater, African American studies, and literature. Both her academic and professional expertise are in film and theater. She is a member of ALA's Film and Media Roundtable and served on the Notable Films for Adults Committee for 2 terms. She's a board member of the Video Trust, which is an organization of library professionals on best practices for visual media acquisition, usage, preservation, and access. So she's perfect for today's conversation. She's also the co-creator of the Sustainability film series, which provides screenings of documentaries concerning environment and sustainability, which is a partnership with Environmental Studies, the library, and the Athena Cinema. Thanks for being here today, Lorraine.
Thanks.
Let's get started. Annie, we're going to turn to you first as the founder of the co-founder of Film Platform. Want to acknowledge that it's a really difficult time in our world globally. Through your work and through your role at Film Platform, I know you're personally a real champion for how the power of documentary film storytelling can help us understand other communities and cultures, histories. Can you talk more about how you see documentaries working specifically in educational environments? How do you think they are fostering critical thinking or even understanding of unknown histories in students?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. And before I kind of delve into that, I do just want to take a moment to acknowledge our colleagues at Film Platform. Many of them are based in Israel and are probably watching today. We just want to say that we are holding them and their neighbors in Gaza close to our hearts during this really difficult time. And I can't imagine a more perfect example, a more timely example of the kind of films that we have curated over the years that have lasting power to help students understand the complexities of the things going on in their world. And they can understand those complexities by walking in the shoes of people who are living that experience. So one of our earliest films, it's from 20 years ago, is a film called Promises. Many of you might know the film. It was nominated for an Oscar. It won 2 Emmys, one in Best Documentary, the other was in, Best Research. The film is about kids growing up in and around Jerusalem, both Arab and Israeli, both religious and non-religious. And students have talked about how they really relate to these children in a way that kids universally relate to each other, and then have the opportunity to kind of delve in to their lived experiences in a way that doesn't in any way tell the viewer what to think about the politics of the region, but helps them feel connected to the people in the region in a way that we've seen eventually. Those students are lifelong learners. They become interested in what's happening in the Middle East, in politics, from a new, deep place of wanting to understand because they feel connected to the people there. So, I mean, it's a beautiful film. It's an example of a film that's evergreen, that has staying power, we know right now we're getting lots of requests for the film, and probably many of you who use Avon, you have it. So I welcome you and invite you to screen promises and to let people on your campus know it's there for them.
You were talking a little bit about lifelong learners. Oh my goodness. You were talking about, I love the impromptu of live. My computer just started doing something strange. So you were talking a little bit about lifelong learners and how documentary film can kind of inspire lifelong learning by making those kinds of connections, both emotional, informational, welcoming you into other cultures. Lorraine, I want to hear from you from like a librarian's perspective. How have you seen streaming video impact student learning and engagement? And I'm wondering, what are some of the best ways you've seen films integrated into classrooms? Because I think we're all so used to different kinds of, we were all used to like a cinematic experience or watching on our own. But how are you thinking about that classroom experience?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say, because of COVID, it really pushed the flipped classroom. So I do think there's strength in students being able to see a film and then talk about it the next day in class or that week in class, because faculty don't want to give up the time. But I think what they're asking them to watch is enough for them to come back to class full of like questions. So the flipped classroom for sure. Let's see what else. Okay, so some people, I have one faculty who integrated what's it called? Many Rivers to Cross, the African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross, which is Avon. And she did her entire we use Blackboard. She put all of the films in her Blackboard class. Kids had to respond to the films in a discussion. So that was really cool. I also saw, what did I find? Many Rivers to Cross. There was another one too. I've seen families, I've seen faculty use films. Now, see, not so much documentary, but I will say they like to use features sometimes just to get at the kids and then bring in a doc. You know what I mean? Trying to think of other things, other people who've used, let me think.
I think you make a good point too, where cinema can just encourage engagement in general, where storytelling brings you a space where you can enter into another world, and then the documentary films can then enhance, enliven, broaden that world from that entry point. So that can be.
I guess the biggest thing, I mean, I don't know, like as you said earlier, I have been doing a sustainability film series for over 10 years now. And it has been very inspirational. I've watched students take off and become activists just because they saw films I screened. A lot of my stuff is from Rocco that we screened. So that, and then we also, I think I'm saying too much. Let's see. I mean, we partner with our art house, which is very nice because they're all about engagement and learning. So I am very fortunate that I have an art house that really cares. So a lot of times faculty will also request me get a film so that they can screen it at the art house and bring in more discussion from multiple points of view. That's some ideas.
Amazing. That's amazing. I love this. It's really like multifaceted ways to bring them out. Well, I guess, that kind of leads to this next question that was inspired by our audience. Annie, one of your roles at Film Platform is just acquiring content, so bringing it into the platform, choosing the films. How do you navigate the issues around like the mega streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu, and just how is Film Platform actually bringing this valuable content specifically into educational spaces?
Yes, there is so much to say about this, Sarah. It's complicated. I know it's often frustrating for video librarians. At the end of the day, the simple answer is it's a rights management question and what we call windowing. So in the life journey of a film, the way it gets released in different windows, and different ways of exploiting the film have different market values, and and filmmakers are just trying to make the most of this project they brought to bear. So for us, I think if the most important takeaway today with regard to this question is that Film Platform is the only streaming platform available that is not trying to compete with the streamers. And what that means is that we are working really closely with the filmmakers who make these films to make sure that even if there is a Netflix deal or a Hulu deal, we have carved out and held back the educational rights so that we can bring them to universities and librarians. Because particularly with documentary films, it's like one of the most important places that our films are shown and used. Filmmakers, as you know, Sarah, like they make these films because they want to make a difference in the world. They're not just looking to be placed on an entertainment platform and that's it. So we have really close relationships and have for decades with the broadcasters, the streamers, the public, PBS as well. And so we're always from the get-go, we're talking to them about what is the plan for the educational release. And we're really evangelizing for the importance of carving out these rights that can exist alongside the Hulus and the Netflix. In fact, we've had a couple of films that are available to you on in the Film Platform collection on Avon that actually came to the platform before its Netflix start date. And that was something that we were doing behind the scenes. And we continue to really work closely with film teams. In part, we're lucky enough to have been around long enough that filmmakers are really like family to us. And we kind of know when they're pregnant again. There's another baby coming. So we're talking to them early on about their films and thinking about strategizing from sometimes the earliest development stage or rough cut stage or just before their festival premiere. We're talking to them about how they want to see their rights play out, how these windows play out. So we are in a position I know you all don't see it, but on the back here over in these headquarters, we're always thinking about those rights and making sure they're going to be available to you, the librarians.
Well, I mean, thinking about just that kind of all the behind the scenes of what you're doing, I'm also kind of thinking about what's in front of viewers every single day, which is kind of the glut of content. I think one of the things that you're alluding to here is that through your relationships with filmmakers, through your relationships with distributors, you're able to get the very best content and raise it up for an educational audience. Can you talk a little bit more just about how you can help films break through the noise of like all of that content out there for people to choose from, and just how Film Platform is just staying really relevant and topical to what's happening in the cultural conversation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it'd be helpful to know just personally, and I've been in this documentary feature film world of distribution for over 30 years. As a kid, I grew up, my mom was a radio and TV journalist. So I was often some of my best memories are going to the newsroom with her. And a really specific memory is that when she would go in the booth and it was on air and I couldn't get to her, I would stand in front of the AP dot matrix printer. And I would just watch these like stories come in of things happen. And they weren't stories yet. They were just, it was just information. It was this constant flow of information of things that were happening. And then I would like step back as someone came and ripped off a page, and I watched people, across the newsroom debating which of these stories they were going to tell. And for me, that's really one of the most exciting things we do here is it's triaging, right? Like just like the newsroom does, they're triaging the information and they're deciding what's the most important, most relevant thing to bring to their audiences. And it's no different at Film Platform. Everyone at Film Platform are just very engaged global citizens. And so we are paying attention. And it's something that we just sort of naturally do and take a great amount of joy in doing so. We know that a better informed civil society, it's exactly the kind of things you're talking about at Harvard, Sarah. It makes for stronger democracies, stronger communities. So we're able to cut through the noise, partly because we kind of have our fingers on the pulse of what's important right now from a current affairs and topical point of view. And then there's just heart. When you watch a film that works and it sticks with you, you're excited to share it. And a lot of things just don't stick with us. So we always say, like, we watch the bad documentaries so you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, that like kind of leads to my next question, which is really about how to evaluate. And Lorraine, let's start with your response. So this is really for both of you. How are you evaluating that quality? How are you able to determine what are the markers of excellence for a documentary, something that is really going to speak to either faculty or students that you work with? Lorraine, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess well, just there's like housekeeping, right? So like I look at reviews from places that their purpose is to review educational docs, like Video Librarian, it's one of them, and EMRO Reviews, which is Educational Media Reviews Online, EMRO. So I also look in there to see what's recommended and what people say. And there's librarians who I highly regard, and when I see their reviews, because like mostly librarians review the films, and that is a very good thing. So those two for sure. And then I gotta say, I mean, not to be like trying to like get free stuff from Annie, but like I know it's Film Platform, so I don't have to worry. Like it's good stuff. And I know it's good stuff because I looked at quite a few of them. And I would say the other thing is that documentaries have to like pull you in the first 10 minutes at least. They have to pull you in. If they don't pull the kids in, forget it. So, and I think they have nowadays, I think they kind of have to have like, it can't just be talking heads unless they're like like Fog of War, yes, but that's like a very unique talking head. But they have to have movement and animation and archival material and just lots of different ways to make their story come alive.
I absolutely agree. I mean, what do you think, Annie? When you're making your curatorial decisions, does everything that Lorraine just said come into play?
Yeah, absolutely. And she's right about those first 10 minutes. I mean, we do a lot of work with distribution globally. So, it could be licensing the film to the BBC for broadcast as well. And so we know that, as you were saying, Sarah, there's so much content out there, it really has to grab you. So it's true, we're also looking not only just for subject matter, but just sort of masterful storytelling, or something where we're getting access to a point of view that we could never imagine getting otherwise had these filmmakers not brought it to us. So yeah, that, and then I would add just to the resources Lorraine mentioned, if the film I would check and see if the film has had a film festival release.
Oh, that's true.
Film festivals are fantastic. They're vetting content all the time. So they're bringing, really the best of cinema. And the thing that happens with the film festival release is you'll also get industry reviews, which is another way to know about the film. And then,
yes.
And then lastly, a lot of the films we work with will go on just like yours, Sarah, and be released theatrically. Yours was through Magnolia Films. And as soon as you release a film theatrically, the national press is quite likely to cover it. So you'll also be able to read some national press. And so you can bring these films to professors and students, like knowing they've been kind of vetted by the press.
all good markers. As a filmmaker, I'm always happy when I get a good review. I wonder, Lorraine, just thinking specifically about what Annie was just saying about bringing films to faculty. Can you talk about that? Like, what are faculty saying to you about what their video needs are, and how are you collaborating with them?
So here, just so you all know, I work with the film department, which is why I get to do so much film, but I don't represent every department, right? So I can only talk to so many faculty. How do I answer that? I would say, I gotta say, because I'm very lucky because of the sustainability film series and getting so much out there, like for forever, has also one thing, faculty, I buy PPR and rights so that they can always use, right, the content. So it's a tricky question because they usually tell me what they want. And I promote, I'm always sharing, here, we got these films, there's some, I'm always telling them that, but my heart is, I guess I'm saying that sometimes with faculty, it can be difficult because they're just so hardcore on the thing they want them to see, like a Netflix doc. And I'm like, can I offer you some other ideas? And so I do, they are often asking for Netflix docs, or usually it's Netflix, right? So then I give them, can I show you things that are very similar that we already have the rights to, that might even be a little bit more educationally focused? So I kind of do that. So yeah, I mean, and I would say because of the film series, faculty do come to me because they want to take a film and bring it, an AIDS film. They want to talk about, they want the kids to understand what happened, in the 80s. Yeah, now I think I'm just babbling, but those are some of my.
Honestly, Lorraine, I think this is great because I think what you're saying, or what I'm getting from what you're saying, this is my interpretation, is that it's really a conversation between you and faculty. And I know I experience this at Harvard a lot. Everyone is so stuck in what they're doing that sometimes it's hard to broaden and see what the resources actually are, because everyone is so at the grindstone, forwarding whatever project they're doing, trying to get to the end of the semester, et cetera, et cetera. So they actually need that curatorial vision. They need, there is a need for them to even know what's out there. I mean, Annie, are you finding that from what you're hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, I loved hearing your answer, Lorraine. I know it's, and maybe some people can drop in the Q&A some advice they have for how it's worked best for them. But what I can tell you is we're constantly contacted by student groups or professors who are really excited about a film that they've read about because it's in the theaters or it's been, like I said, nationally reviewed. And they don't know that they already have access to it.
Yes.
Through Avon and Film Platform. And so I would say to all of the librarians out there, and it's so cool to see you're all from everywhere. I had no idea how many of you are coming from all over the world, but we need your help. I'm asking for your help. We need your help to make sure that professors and students know this is at their fingertips. They don't have to go get a Netflix subscription, or I noticed someone commented about just, getting some kind of usage subscription to PBS. We can't ask that of our students. They didn't used to have to need those, right? Back before streaming and subscription. So the most important thing we can do with these kinds of films, which are exceptional and transformational and change the way that students think about a subject, they lend themselves to creative thinking. We really need your help. We really collectively need to learn from you. How do we best make sure that everyone on your campus knows that these resources are available?
And Annie, I have to say, I'm sure, I don't know how many of you will agree with me out there, but discovering films on a library platform stinks. we are in an older platform now. We're going to Alma. So I don't know anything about you finding films might be better on Alma. Just so people know, I have subject guides. Like I do a subject guide called Streaming Films by Subject. So I just keep updating that and giving people more things in their subject area. And the last thing I want to say, Annie, is what I wanted you and Sarah is I wish I could make a little visual, and it says Netflix, Hulu, Prime, and Max. And then you lift it up and it says Avon, my other one, Drama Online, they're not your compete. And like those are them. See, it's not called Netflix, it's called Avon.
Mhm.
So I thought, something like, I got to get it through their head that to look at the platform. They're so like, do you have that film, that one? Like, so.
Oh my God. So discoverability, this is the issue of the day. Well, I mean, speaking of discoverability, I mean, what can we just take it to some of the exciting films that people can actually see on film platform? Maybe we can start with Right to Read. I know, Annie, when you and I have had conversations, you've talked so glowingly about the Right to Read, which I think is new content coming into academic video online. Do you wanna set that up a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, it's currently on film platform, which you can get through Avon. The Right to Read has been just one of those fantastic films that's doing such good work in the world. It premiered at the Santa Barbara Film Festival, I think back in February. We started seeing cuts of it months before. It's a documentary film that highlights the literacy crisis in America, but it does it in a way that's not just talking heads, although there's some incredible experts in the film, but it does it through story. So the main character is a man named Kareem Weaver, who himself is he's an African-American father of two. He is a teacher, he has been a principal, and now he's spending his time really going after school districts who have not been using evidence-based curriculum for teaching reading. And sadly, across our nation, those of us who are in America, we have a literacy crisis, and it's shameful. It's shameful, and it all stems from identifying the fact that about 20 years ago, schools moved to this non-evidence-based way of teaching reading, and we've left countless students behind. And of course, it affects kids of color, kids who are, disproportionately affected because they don't have the resources for extra tutors. So we'll show a little clip of the film, and then I'll tell you some of the good news that comes as a result of the film.
Oh yay, roll clip.
Larry ran to the cab.
My man Larry, I'm gonna say this right now on tape. My man Larry just read his first sentence by himself, and I'm very, very proud of him. And whoever sees this videotape, I'm hoping I can get his mother to see it too. I want them to know that Larry can read. And Larry will read, won't you?
Yeah.
Right on.
The question is, what becomes of those kids who don't have a foundation in reading? I can tell you what happens to them. Now, Lord works in mysterious ways. Kids, overcome all kinds of challenges. However,
illiteracy is the pipeline to prison. It's also the pipeline to homelessness. It's the pipeline to unemployment and depression. And there are publishing companies that sell popular curriculum that do not teach our children to read, making millions of dollars.
from the day I set foot in Oakland, I realized that everything starts with literacy. Everything starts with reading. Science, math, history, you name it. If you can't read, you can't access anything else.
Oh my goodness, such powerful filmmaking. I know that film's been making a difference all over the place. so exciting. I don't know, Lorraine, did you get a chance to see Right to Read?
Yeah, I watched most of it, and it's beautiful. Yeah, but it's so positive at the end. And plus, that image of Larry like reading, could you just die? Like he read, and he's so excited about it. It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
How soon will that be available, Annie?
Well, it's available on campus now, so everyone has access to it now, pre any kind of Netflix or streaming or PBS. You get it now.
Incredible.
So some exciting things with that film, and look, every single one of the films in the film platform collection are curated, and we love them all. And I could talk about any of them all day. We're trying to keep this to an hour, so the Right to Read is the one we're going to talk about today. But so these are the kinds of things that happen with these films where they really make a difference in the world. So the executive producer of this film was LeVar Burton, who of course is passionate about kids reading. And I had the opportunity to see him do a Q&A after the film for a special screening in New York City for Mayor Adams and basically the entire Department of Education in the state of New York. And the film, showing the film and having LeVar Burton there was kind of icing on the cake. They had screened the film several months before in a closed screening that we provided for them, and made a clear decision after that they were completely overhauling the way they were going to teach reading in the state of New York. And it was just so thrilling to be in a theater with LeVar Burton, and then the mayor of New York City. So he was holding up a DVD of the film. You remember what those are? DVDs. And the cover of the DVD is a little black boy reading, and he pointed to it and he got kind of choked up, and he said every day his memory growing up was that every morning the thing he was most afraid of, and he was terrified before leaving for school, was that he would be called on to read. And he went, and he was really moved by it. And he later in his life learned that he had dyslexia, and credits his parents and his teachers for identifying it and helping to lift him up. But he really could recognize this idea of feeling left out. And it's these kind of connections that these films make about a topic that through the human story, people get sucked in. They suddenly get engaged in a way they don't if they're just reading the news. They now have a person to be attached to, like Larry. So yeah, it's just been a thrill to be involved with it. And there are school districts all over the country now who are hosting screenings to see this film. And we think it's a really important part of higher academics and the social sciences.
Incredible story. It's just how it weaves from like subject matter into personal storytelling into people's own hearts. I love Right to Read. And then not to be selfish, but now we're going to talk about my movie, which is called Riotsville, U.S.A. I was really proud to work on this. I was even more proud that it was distributed through both Magnolia and Roku. This film is a portrayal of the development of essentially an armed forces informed militaristic police culture that was born out of a particular time in U.S. history. And it's also a profound reflection on past events that are mirroring current realities. So if you will all indulge me, we're going to play the trailer for Riotsville, USA.
A door swung open in the late 60s. Nothing that big or bright had ever happened, and in so many American cities. And something sprang up and slammed it shut.
The report of the President's Commission on Riots will tell white America that the United States is a racist country.
That's what we do in this society. We appoint a committee and we investigate. Ergo, something's being done. That's just simply not true.
In these staged demonstrations, the men dressed in black will typify hardcore agitators. Action must be taken.
1967 had given the establishment proof that something was broken and being born.
It was a shameful and totally uncalled for outburst of lawlessness.
Between possibility and repression, closure and rupture, parody and dream. That's where all of this has taken place. Riotsville. Anywhere, U.S.A.
Not gonna lie, I think it's a good trailer.
It is. It's a great film. And Sarah, it's a really great example of a film that relies on archival images to tell a story that is relevant now. Maybe you can talk a little bit about, films that all the researched and bring in archival materials and how that is important in academic settings.
Well, I think, our experiences with Riotsville, USA have been that, first of all, kind of alarming in some ways, but so many people didn't know what the Kerner Commission was. People really didn't understand kind of the uprisings that were happening in the late 1960s in Detroit, in Newark, and their connections to how policing in this country was dramatically altered. That said, one of the things that we realized, I would say three kind of operating principles. One was that archives have a point of view. There are verified knowledges that are collected because certain people with certain resources think they should be collected. And therefore, that archival footage has the point of view of the collector of such images. And certain images are not collected. One of the things that we really try to point out in Riotsville is that there are absences in the archive. But those absences also are information. They tell us something. So archives themselves speak to us through history. I think another thing that happened for us was that for many, this was how they were saying that this was a hidden history. But in fact, it wasn't a hidden history. It was a forgotten one. And I think that was a really kind of an aha moment for many of us in our conversations around the film, that archive actually reminds us of where we were before. Archive brings us back to moments in ways that sometimes, like, the historical analysis distances us from them, but archival footage actually brings us back into some of these moments. Of course, you always have to be careful about context, but being kind of vaulted back into that time frame is another kind of power that archival footage brings. And then I would say, for many of our young audiences, they've just felt like, oh, I like this explains so much of why the things are the way they are. If there are systems, they aren't always just there. They were built, and if they were built, we can build new ones. So that for them, especially young audiences, they found understanding, watching how systems were actually built, either with government, police, etc. That means they can actually be unbuilt or rebuilt. And I think it gave them a sense of empowerment that they could be part of that story. So that was, I don't know. I think archives have a lot. Archival films have a lot to bring into conversations in the classroom. I don't know, Lorraine, you're shaking, you're nodding at that. Have you found the same?
You know, actually, I think it was one of the questions you asked that was sent, right? And I have like a love-hate with archives, but because we don't get considered as much film, right? But then I started thinking about, well, what the hell? I mean, British pate, like there are so many archival sources out there that we can draw from, which, right, in 1960, as we get more technology, the more we can look back on the archive, which I think is a really cool way of of showing them the history. And like you were saying, they were like, I didn't know that was even a thing. It's like, yeah, all these things, they didn't just show up when you were born. They like have all sorts of like history to them. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would just like to add that one of the films that we really love that uses almost entirely archive is How to Survive a Plague, which is a masterful film in every way. The filmmaker who was back in the 80s was a journalist, working very much in the space of telling stories about AIDS and ACT UP, and was at these ACT UP meetings. When he decided to make this film, he remembered who was in those meetings. He remembered who had camcorders, and in some cases went to their families' homes and met their mothers after he knew that their sons had passed away, and said, I know he had a camcorder. Do you have any footage? And he found footage this way and was able to tell this story, which became, this is another Oscar nominated film. It's on film platform Avon. It's a really good example of, showing us the history, not telling us, in a way that you can never forget. It's such a powerful story. So yeah, I mean, it's a joy to see a documentary that employs a lot of archive that really works. And Riotsville absolutely does. And so is How to Survive a Plague.
How to Survive a Plague is one of my all-time favorites, for sure. Yeah. I have some questions coming in from the Q&A from our guests from around the world. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up. So you all have experienced challenges with students having access to quality content. How can librarians play a role in educating students to be advocates for the content? Understanding how they can access content they want to see. Oh, that's interesting. So how can students who are like really desiring to find new content find that content? I think that's what I'm understanding. And how can librarians play a role in educating students on how to be advocates for the kind of content that they really want to see in the classroom? So I don't know, maybe Lorraine, we can start with you. So you have your thinking hat on.
I'm trying to think of like, how can students advocate? Wow. I was thinking in the other direction, which is something I used to do, which was bring these films, like information about these films to, I don't know if you all have it, but like first year students stay in dorms and they have RAs, and the RAs have to show them things and do activities with them. So I've done those kinds of things to show the students what's out there, which then they're like, wait a minute, that raises awareness. But I mean, I think,
I might be able to add here, Lorraine, just because we work with a lot of groups that want to host a screening of our films as well. And so we have a lot of students or student groups who know of a film and will come to us and want to host a screening, but maybe they don't have the budget. So that we'll refer them to their librarian to acquire the content for the campus. So that's certainly one way that we've found for us to get awareness on campus of a particular film comes through the students themselves who are really engaged in a topic.
And I think I could do. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I'm sorry, I see that at Harvard too, where it's a lot of it's student groups who are those kids who are really engaged, who will come forward and being like, we want this film, or we want films about X, and then trying to find the resources to really kind of match their interests with some cinema.
Interesting. But yeah, the student groups is a good, I mean, this whole time we've been discussing this day today, I've been like, oh my God, there's so many ways I can outreach these students, like especially the student groups. And I have a quick question. Is Film Platform, can I screen it on campus like for a group? I can, right?
It does not include public performance rights.
So it has to be for a class.
Yes.
Okay.
But we can assist you with that through ROCO. So any of the films can be made available. But that's a different those requests would go through ROCO. Film Platform would send them back to ROCO. So yeah, good question.
There is a question though, in terms of bigger film screenings that for the university community. What are tips on marketing film screenings to the broader university campus versus individual faculty members? So I guess this is more of like a ROCO hat than it is Film Platform. But what thoughts do you both have on just marketing film screening events and getting folks to show up?
Well, as I said before, I'm very lucky because I have the sustainability film series, so it's just an ongoing evergreen thing. I had something going on in my brain and it went away. Annie, go.
I mean, I could like the number one thing that brings students at Harvard is food.
Food. Oh, that's
that you have some food available. Actually,
yeah. Food is always good.
Yeah, I mean, we like, the students who want to host films, it's their event. So we actually don't get involved with helping them figure out how to get people to it. But I do think it's important to note that when those campus screenings happen, it really does serve like sort of the long tail of then the film being used in classrooms and hopefully to be used in curriculum, semester after semester. If the film really resonates with a particular course, then we what we'd love to see is it get adopted into that course so that it's consistently used. And this is the difference between looking for a film on Netflix versus on Film Platform. Is it's still going to be there tomorrow, and with Netflix you don't know when it's getting pulled, so you can't as a professor really decide to make that part of your curriculum when you don't know if it will exist for streaming in 3 weeks.
I will say one thing we do almost every, because we've done the sustainability, but I've been very lucky. We're in Appalachia. We have a whole film series on Appalachia because no one understands it. We have a whole film series on women pioneers, like that kind of thing. And what I really like about what we do, I don't know if any of you know, well, no, it's not like science on screen. I shouldn't say that. It's, we always have a panel, and it's usually, I like my panels to have at least 1 or 2 community members who can relate to the thing I'm talking about within the community, because here we have a town and gown problem where the town is like, oh, the university, they think they're everything, right? So I want to bring the community in, and like, tell me, so we have a lot of activists here. We have a lot of different people here. So I think bringing in the community is really smart. And we also get a faculty, and we also get a grad student, and we get an undergrad. So I get people from different places to be on panels, and I give them questions ahead of time. So that's one way.
Great suggestions. I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions. I know one that has been coming up is about the accessibility features that are standard on Avon. What languages are available and what accessibility features, if any?
Yeah, I know there are closed captions when there are other languages that are available, they're made available, but generally their English. One of the things I'm really proud about Film Platform is that many of the films on the collection are actually sourced from lots of other countries. So, their original language could be Ukrainian to Spanish to, so they're definitely not only English speaking films. So there's a variety there, but when there are different language tracks, they're made available.
We only have a couple minutes left, so I want to, before I wrap up, I just want to find out if there are any other films coming out soon that you're especially excited about, Annie.
Yes. Well, there's a few that are coming out in theaters like this month and are already starting to hit. So one is called Uncharitable, which is based on a TED Talk and a book by Dan Pallotta, who started the first AIDS ride, and his organization raised hundreds of millions of dollars for AIDS research. The film's called Uncharitable because it takes a really new look at charity and how we should be thinking about charity for it to succeed. So that's in theaters now. And then it will be coming to Film Platform. We also have a film called Deep Rising, which premiered at Sundance. It'll be in theaters later this month. Jason Momoa, also known as Aquaman, is our EP and narrator. And it's a really compelling, beautiful film, a very observational film about the fact that our deep seabed, which is the common heritage of all mankind, is about to be given away parcel by parcel to mining companies to start mining the bottom of the deep sea. And the life at the bottom of the ocean, the microbial life, is hugely abundant. It's also the world's largest carbon sink. And the film is sort of a cautionary tale of, are we really, is this really the direction we want to go, is more extraction to solve our energy needs? So, and it's very visual. See it in the theater if you can. It's breathtaking. And then we have a film in theaters right now called Common Ground. It's a follow-up to Kiss the Ground, which was a successful film on Netflix during COVID, and it's a very hopeful film about a very within our reach way to draw down as much carbon as we put out, and that is through regenerative agriculture, which is a way to feed our soil. It's a way to make our food more healthy, but most urgently, it's a way to draw down carbon. And it's full, this one happens to be full of celebrities. Most of our documentaries don't, but there's a lot of science in the film. It's very pro-farmer. It's a yes, we can do it. It's called Common Ground because we all can play a role.
I love this. I mean, sometimes the celebrities are drawing the students in. Sometimes it's the beautiful visuals. Sometimes it's just the issue. But a lot coming up for Film Platform. Well, I feel like this hour has like screamed by. It's actually time for us to wrap up, if you can believe it.
Sarah, can I just please answer one quick question that I saw that
yes, I might have missed it.
It's a quick answer. Someone asked if the films on Film Platform are exclusive to Film Platform, and the answer is yes.
So membership has its privileges.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. So good to know. Even more motivation to get on Film Platform. Well, first, I just want to thank Lorraine and Annie for being so wonderful today. Thank you so much for this conversation. As we're wrapping up, it's clear to me that resources like Film Platform and academic video online are really innovating the way that we incorporate documentaries into educational settings. By providing access to a vast array of critically acclaimed films, educators have a powerful tool at their fingertips, one that can transform classrooms into vibrant hubs of discussion, debate, and discovery. Maybe some of you have discovered some new titles just from this conversation today. I want to thank everyone from around the world who came and joined this conversation. I hope we can all continue to be to champion the role of documentary films in shaping the minds of the future through our work in universities. I also want to thank Rocco Films and Film Platform for curating these documentaries for classroom and campus use, to Choice for their partnership, and to ProQuest, part of Clarivate, for recognizing the role that film has to play in research, teaching, and learning. You can now access all the films we talked about, I think, except for the coming attractions that Annie just mentioned, through Academic Video Online and your academic library. And I just want to thank you all again for joining us. See you at the movies.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, Lorraine. It's a pleasure.